Today we're taking a look at the new 2023 Dominator Duo by PSE. Just a reminder guys, head on over to mikesarchery.com to pick up any of our latest logo gear. We got plenty of hats and shirts as well as any gear you might need for your next adventure. Welcome back to Mike's Archery, and we are taking a look at the new target series from PSE for 2023, and this is their new bow, the Dominator Duo. That's the full caged riser bow, kind of playing off that Perform X that they've had in the past, with a lot of new features and a lot of new tech built into these bows. Now it's going to come in several variations, and we're going to try to cover as much of the specs and shooting as we can based on what we had in stock here. Now the Dominator Duo is going to come to you available in a 35, 38, or 40-inch axle to axle. So this bow is going to come to you not only in 3 axle to axle lengths, but it's also going to come with 3 cam variations in each one of those lengths. So you're going to be able to get this bow with the S2 cam as well as an M2 cam or the SE cam. So that's going to give you a ton of variation, a ton of variability into this bow, and a lot of options for you to get a bow that is going to fit specifically for your target needs. Now let's take a run through some of the specs on each one of these bows. Starting off with the speed on these bows, and we're going to kind of give them to you in categories here. So the 35-inch, as we move across there with an M2 cam, is going to be at 340 feet per second, and that is at 29-inch draw length because of the short draw of that M2 cam on a 35. Now as you move over to a 38-inch bow with the M2 cam, you're going to see 349, and then with the 40-inch bow, 340 feet per second. Then as you go down to a 35-inch bow with the S2 cam, you're going to have 345 feet per second. The 38 is going to be 342 feet per second, and a 40-inch bow is going to IBO at 325. Then as we look at the SE cam, you're going to be able to get that at 338 feet per second on a 35. Then as you move over to the 38, you've got 338 feet per second again, and then the 40 coming in at 325 feet per second. So again, a little bit of variation, not a huge amount of speed changes between all those different setups. You're really within about 5-6 feet a second, depending on which cam and which length you choose. Now again, axle to axle being those 3 options, you're going to see some differences in brace height. It's not a huge difference in the brace height as you move across these bows, but because of the cam variations as well as the axle to axle lengths, it does vary slightly. Now on a 35-inch with an M2, you're going to get 6 3/4 inch brace height, and a 38 with the M2 is 6 3/4 inch brace height again, and then a 40-inch jumps all the way out to a 7 1/4 inch brace height. Now if you get the S2 cam option on these 3 bows, you're going to see a 7-inch brace height on the 35 and 38, and then also a 7 1/2 inch brace height on the 40. As you go to the SE cam, you're going to see 7 1/8 inch brace height on the 35 and 38, and then a 7 5 inch brace height on the 40. Now what that does change a little bit is the overall cam to cam length on these bows, and as you measure them, the 35 has got an overall cam to cam length of 40 1/4, while the 38 has got an overall cam to cam length of 42 1/2 inches, and then the 40-inch bow is going to give you a 44 1/2 inch overall cam to cam length. These bows are going to be super stable as being a longer target bow. They're just going to sit in your hand fantastic and just hold on target great. Just exactly what we expect out of PSE in their target lineup. Now the weight does vary slightly between these 3 models of bows, and the 35 spec weight on these bows is 4.9 pounds. Now as we took the 35 out of the box, we got a real world weight of 5 pounds even, coming in basically really close, if not a 1/10 of a pound, a little heavy. On the 38, we are supposed to see 5.1. We got 5.2 out of the box. And then the 40-inch is where we saw the biggest variation, and it was supposed to be factory spec weight of 5.2 pounds, and we took it out of the box and got 5.6. Now there's nothing really to take off of these bows, how we do with the hunting bows, taking off limb dampeners and different things. So these are just out of the box weights. And again, those are coming really close on the 35 and 38. The 40 coming in a little heavier than what factory spec weight is supposed to be. Now as we look at the draw length options, this is where the cams are going to have a little bit of variation as well, because of those changes in draw length based on where these cams fall on each length of the bow. Now when you look at an M2 cam on a 35-inch bow, you're going to be able to get that bow all the way down from 25 out to 29, and that's why you saw the speed rating on that one measured at 29 rather than 30. And then as you go out to the 38 on an M2, you're going to be able to get that spread from 26 to 30 inches, and then on the 40-inch bow, you're going to be able to go from 27 to 31. Now as you move down to an S2 cam, you've got that 27 to 31 inch variation there on the spread. And then in a 38, you've got 28 to 32. And then on a S2 on a 40 inch, you're going to go from 29 to 33. As you move down to the SE cam on these three models of bows, you're going to be able to adjust that bow from 25.5 out to 31 on a 35 inch, from 26.5 to 32 on the 38, and then 29 out to 33 on a 40-inch SE cam. So with all those variabilities, they've basically covered almost every archer out there, all the way from 25 out to 33 inches. Now obviously that's not on every bow option, but if you're somewhere in that middle from 27, 28 inch out to 29 or 30, you basically have your pick of the litter for which bow you want to go with. Now the draw weight options on these bows do vary slightly. Most of them you can get it in a 50 or 60. However, coming in on an SE cam, you can get that in a 40, 50, or 60 on the 35. And you can also get the M2 cam on a 35 in a 40, 50, or 60 as well. So you've got some options there on the 35 that'll get a little lighter weight bow if you need that. Now the longer bows, you're not able to get those. They are just available in 50 and 60. They all come with the adjustable let-off on that module, and being a target bow, you're going to get the most let-off at 75%, and you're going to be able to adjust this bow back to a 65% hold, and it's got plenty of variations in between there. You can kind of work with this bow and change the feel of it based on what cam you've got. Now with those three cam options, just to kind of give you an understanding of where they come from, the S2 cam is what is used on their hunting model bows, and it is going to hold that peak weight about 2 inches longer through that draw cycle. It's going to be a slightly more aggressive cam. It's going to give you a few feet per second faster if that's what you're looking for. Not a huge amount of difference, but it is going to be a little more aggressive cam if that's the feel that you like. Similarly with the M2, that's going to be a little more aggressive cam, and it is similar to that EM cam that they had in the past. It's just faster with the adjustable let-off that was not available there. Now the SE cam seems to be their most variable cam, and that's going to cover most everything as far as adjustability. It's going to give you all the options, and it's going to give you that little softer feel than the other bows, but is going to be a little bit slower than the others. So it's just a matter of picking out what you feel and what is going to suit your shooting and your type of target archery best. Now let's look at the features on the Dominator Duo. As we go into this, this is where they changed a lot of options here on this bow. And one of the first things that is unique about the Dominator Duo is that ability to flip this bow left or right hand. So if you're looking at this bow and you're walking into a shop and you're a lefty, don't worry. Whatever bow they have on the shelf is going to flip to you and be able to be made a left-handed bow. It's just a matter of pulling a few parts off of it, moving your cable rod to the opposite side, using that flip chip technology in there, adjusting a few things around, and you can make this bow a left-handed bow. So that's pretty cool that the dealer no longer has to stock a left-handed specific bow if you're looking at the Dominator Duo. Now with that and all the other cam options and all the things that are built into it, it has hundreds of options for adjustability and tunability. It's going to just give exceptional forgiveness on this platform. Now one of the other new features that PSE came with last year was their Easy 220 snap spacer, their shim system replacement there. It's going to be the same on these new target bows. You're going to be able to take these bows, put them in the press, take the pressure off of them, pop those shims out, and as long as you're adding up to 220 on either side, you can take a full shim kit and adjust these cams left or right to get the perfect tear and the perfect setup for your shooting. Now what we love about that is the simplicity of it and not having to pull all the shims out, dropping little shims in the floor. It's just going to make that tuning so much easier to do, whether you're at home or for the shop to do it for you. Now, part of that shim system is also their new axle system. So they put a new axle into these bows, and it is a sleeved axle. You're going to be able to tighten those up with screws on opposite sides, no more E-clips. It's going to allow for better bearing and longer bearing wear in these bows, and it just keeps everything where it's supposed to be with these new axle systems. Now, PSE also has come with that new full draw stability system, and they have built that into these new target bows as well. So with the stability at full draw in these bows, it's their dynamic brace height changing, and it just allows these bows to hold better at full draw, reducing torque and reducing that feel in your hand of just that bow wanting to move. It's going to help you hold on target easier and longer, and to make more consistent and accurate shots out of these bows. The next part of that limb setup is their limb vise pocket system. It's just going to lock everything down in perfect place, keeping the limbs from moving throughout the shot, again giving more consistency from shot to shot. They've also increased the internal shoot-through riser, so if you've seen that in the past or shot a shoot-through riser in the past, these have a little wider sight window, and that just allows for better sight picture, as well as allows for better clearance as your arrow passes through the riser. It just makes it overall a better look and a better feel for these bows, and it stiffens up the riser a little bit as well. Now, this being a target bow, they have got a ton of great colors here from PSE. Now, the 35, if you wanted to shoot this as a hunting bow, they have the 35 available in 2 camo colors, and that's going to be First Light Fusion as well as QU Verde 2.0. So if you're looking at the 35 and you're that guy that needs a longer draw length, you like a much longer bow, maybe you're wanting to shoot fingers in a hunting situation, then you may want to take a look at the Dominant Duo on a 35 axle to axle and get that in a camo color. If not, all these bows are going to be available in all their standard target colors. Everything is going to come with white limbs except for your black, and then you've got your standard black, you've got charcoal available, a tan, a black cherry, as well as a green, navy blue, and a white on white. So you've got some really cool options there to mix and match these bows and just make a custom look that you want out of your target bow. Now, the other nice thing that PSE did was the price point on these bows. So if you've looked at a lot of other target bows, typically the price goes up as the bow gets longer, which I guess kind of makes sense, but PSE built all these bows and kept them all the same price. So regardless of whether you're buying a 35 or whether you're buying the 40, the retail on these bows is going to be $16.99. So that's coming in exactly where we've seen a lot of other target bows, and usually even with these shoot-through riser bows, you get a little higher price, but at $16.99, you've got a great platform from PSE at a price that's competitive with everybody else's target bow. So now we're going to step back to the lane and we're going to shoot these bows, giving you a breakdown on all the different weights of arrows, all the way from our 350 out to a 500 grain arrow, and also the decibel readings. Now, we are going to shoot these bows on 60 pounds at 29-inch draw length with a 75% let-off, and then we're going to go through several different options of cams, whether it be the S2 or M2. Now, we did not do the SE2 cam just because we did not have one available. They came in and went back out so quickly. All we had available to shoot at this time was the S2 and the M2 cams on these models. So just know that the SE is going to be a little bit slower, and it's going to be a little smoother draw cycle, and that's going to be the biggest difference between the SE as well as these other 2 new cams with the S2 and M2. Now we step back here to the lane, and we're going to start with the shortest of the 3 Dominator Duos, the 35, and we're going to shoot this over the chronograph. Now this is a 35 with the S2 cam. This is in their gloss black, and you know, some of the other features that we didn't mention up there, which are pretty standard on all 3 of these bows. Obviously, with the ability to flip it left and right, you've got your double rest holes on both sides. You've got an extra set of holes drilled in there to move your cable rod from one side to the other. It is a standard roller cable guard, which definitely takes some of the chatter and just makes it a nice smooth draw cycle. But it's also adjustable there. So if you need to adjust that cable rod, you have that ability to take some torque off the cams and adjust that. You've got multiple sight mounting positions, which PSE has been quite famous for doing. And then in the grip, you've got a nice slim target grip, but they did drill and tap that handle so that if you want to add an aftermarket grip of some type, I know that Ultra View knock-on grip should mount on here, as well as some of the other options from PSE. So you can change that grip up a little bit You've got your bushings in here for any back bar, front bar, so you can weight this bow up and really balance it out any way you see fit. And that's going to be true on all the models. So from there, we're going to take a few shots out of this 35. And again, this has got the S2 cam on it. This will be the only 35 that we'll shoot is with that option. So let's just see what kind of speed numbers this bow puts up here. All right, so with a 400 grain arrow, and this is all going to depend on your setup. Obviously, with a target setup, you're going to lean towards the lighter side of things from time to time. But this bow with a 400 grain arrow came in at 287, and then when we dropped it back to a 350 grain arrow, this is coming in at 304, and with a 450 grain arrow, it dropped down to 270. And with a 500 grain arrow, we got 258 feet per second. Again, this was the S2 cam on 60 pounds, 29-inch draw length, and at that 75% let off. Now, when we look at the noise, I know that's not a huge factor when you're shooting target, but this bow came in at 97.7, which, toward the top end of what we typically see out of most bows as far as noise level. Nothing horrendously loud. It's about what you would expect out of it. Now, as far as draw cycle, with that S2 cam we mentioned already, you're going to feel it holding that peak weight just a little bit longer through 2 inches of the draw cycle. It is a little more aggressive cam, but really overall, putting it on a 35-inch platform, it feels a lot smoother than on any of their hunting bows. So as you're coming back through that draw cycle, you're going to pick up a little speed with an S2, but it comes over quite smooth. It does drop off there at the back end. You may have seen that as I came to full draw. The S2's just got that little extra hump at the back end as you drop into that 75% let off. Now, as far as the grip, as we mentioned, standard target grip from PSE. Overall, a great feel. It sits right there in the crease of your hand really well. I think you're going to be really pleased with the way this bow holds and how it holds on target and how it shoots. Now, the vibration afterwards, something we don't really talk about too much on target bows, is the hand shock. You're definitely going to feel a little more hand shock out of any of these bows than you are on most of the hunting models. But once you weight these back up, balance them out with whatever bars you're going to put on there, it's something that's going to take a ton of that vibration out. But you're definitely, with a stripped down bow, you're going to feel a little more vibration and kick than you would in your standard hunting bow. But that's to be expected. But overall, a really nice feel. I like the way this bow comes over, and I especially like the way it holds. And as we get longer, that does get a little bit better. So the 35 there, that's the numbers it put up. I'm going to grab one of the 38s here. We're going to shoot the 38 on a couple options. So we'll grab one of those and go through those. All right, guys, so we grabbed the Dominator Duo in a 38-inch model. Now, this does have the S2 cam on it as well. We're going to shoot this a couple different ways because 38 being right there in the middle is probably going to be the most popular length of the three models. We're going to shoot this on an S2 and an M2 cam, but we're going to start with that S2 cam. So again, 60 pounds, 29-inch draw length, and 75% let off. We'll start with that 400 grain arrow and then break it down from there on the different weights. So let's put up some numbers here. So with an S2 cam, you're getting 288 feet per second. And with the 350 grain arrow, it jumped up to 288 feet per second. And then on the 450 grain arrow, you got 257. And with a 500 grain arrow, we got 245. So overall, pretty decent speeds out of this S2. It's a little slower than we expected and comparing it to the other models that we shot. But this is out of the box, so there could be a little variation there. But we did check, the weights and all that stuff like we normally do to make sure these are equal across the board. So on a 38, like I said, with the S2, a little more aggressive, but definitely smoother than the 35. It rolls into that back wall just a little easier than the 35 does on that cam. And then the shot feel on this bow is, in my opinion, a little better than the 35. But as you get longer, it's just going to get smoother. It's just going to get a little better feel. And the 38 here with that S2 cam is no different. Probably going to be one of the more popular options aside from the SE cam. So the 38 there, putting up some decent numbers. We're going to grab another 38 here with M2 cams, and we'll give you the breakdown on that. So as far as noise rating on the 38, we've got that one at 94.8 decibels. So fairly quiet. Not a surprise being a little longer bow there with a 38, bringing the decibels down a little bit. Like I said, overall with that longer axle to axle, you're just getting a nice, smooth, great feeling bow. So from here, let me grab a 38 with an M2 cam, and we'll make the comparison between those two bows. All right, so we've grabbed the M2 cam on this 38. We just happen to have both of them in that navy blue, which, you know, frankly is a great looking color. I'm not a big fan of blue most of the time, but this is a good looking color. So we're going to shoot the M2 cam on a 38, again, starting with 400 grains on the arrow, and then 60 pounds, as usual, 29 and 75% let off. So let's see what the M2 cam puts up. All right, so with a 400 grain arrow on the M2 cam, we got 281. And then as we went lighter with a 350 grain arrow, we got 300 feet per second. And with a 450 grain arrow, we got 267. And then with a 500 grain arrow, we got 254. Now, those speeds are considerably faster than what we got out of the S2 cam. It's not really necessarily what we expected to see, you know, as far as that much of a spread. But this M2 is certainly a little faster than that S2. Now, on the back end, coming through that draw curve, it feels very similar to the S2, but it has a little more dump on the back end than an S2 does. It's all up to your shooting preferences, and obviously when you're adjusting these things, changing the let off, you know, different draw lengths, all that's going to have a little bit of tuning adjustment that's going to feel a little different to you. But overall, the M2 putting up some really nice speeds. As far as noise rating, coming in very similar to the S2 cam at 95.4, so, you know, less than a decibel difference there. Right there in the middle of the road as far as noise rating. Again, something that most target archers are not overly concerned about. Now, the M2 cam versus the S2 cam as far as aftershot feel very similar. The 38 is probably the best feeling of the bows without it being weighted up and fully rigged out. So let's move on to the 40-inch, and we'll grab that one, and we'll be shooting it with an M2 cam. All right, so we've grabbed a 40-inch Dominator Duo here with the M2 cam on it. This bow, obviously the longest of the three. If you're wanting to shoot spots and just have that overall stable platform, or you've got that exceptionally long draw, then most certainly this may be the bow that you want to take a look at. So with the 40-inch here, we're going to shoot this as usual, same as the others, on 60 pound, 29 and 75% let off. And we'll see what kind of numbers that the 40-inch is putting up. All right, so the 40 is coming in at 277 with an M2 cam with a 400 grain arrow. As we drop back to that 350 grains, we got it at 295. With a 450 grain arrow, we went down to 259. And then with a 500 grain arrow, we dropped off to 248. So overall, obviously going to be one of the slower models here, being that longer axle to axle, and then with the M2 cam on it, it just slows everything down. But again, if you're looking for a rock solid, stable platform, these 40-inch bows are going to be where it's at. Now, as far as noise rating, the 40 actually came in as one of the quietest bows we maybe have ever shot, which was a little surprising to us at 89.3 decibels. Again, I know it's not something most target archers are worried about as far as noise. This bow is very quiet when you shoot it. So from that standpoint, when you come through the draw cycle and the aftershot of this bow, very similar. As you get longer, again, it gets smoother. It just rolls over really nice, even with this M2 cam on it. The 40 probably has the most vibration of the three bows. That extra long riser just gives you more material to resonate. It's not something that's overly significant. And again, once you get these weighted up and balanced out, it's probably not even anything you're going to notice on the target line. So again, PSE coming to you with a ton of new features on these Dominator Duos. If you're on the target circuit, you know, PSE has been leading with some really great target bows over the last several years, and it's something that you definitely need to take a look at. any of the Dominator Duos, depending on your situation, and get the right cam, get the right setup and the length that's just going to fit you, and be sure and shoot them if you can. If not, if you can't find these bows, most certainly we're trying to keep as many of them in stock as we can in most colors and variations. If you can't find something at your local shop, give us a call here at Mike's Archery, because again, we're trying to keep them all on the shelf, and we can certainly get these out to you and get you set up with the bow that you're looking for.